250,000.
Against Gaul, the Battle of Alesia, 52 BC. Gaul, the summer is ending. Across the hills of Gaul, thousands of warriors are moving toward one place. They are not coming to raid a Roman camp. They are coming to destroy an army. The center of it all stands a fortified hilltop settlement called Alesia. Follow and subscribe to History in the Shadow. Outside the walls stands Julius Caesar. His army is smaller, and his men are exhausted. And now Caesar has discovered something terrifying. The Gauls are not trapped alone. An entire relief army is coming. Ancient sources give that army an astonishing figure, around 250,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry. Modern historians debate this number, but even if smaller, the strategic problem was the same. But even if the true figure was considerably smaller, the strategic problem was the same. Caesar had placed his army between two enemies, and there was nowhere to run. Because Caesar had made a decision that would change the history of Rome. He would not simply attack Alesia, he would build a wall around it. And then, he would build another wall around himself. Before we enter the battle, understand what is at stake. This is not simply another Roman victory. For nearly a decade, Caesar has been fighting across Gaul. Tribes have risen, cities have burned, armies have been destroyed and rebuilt. And after years of resistance, the Gallic tribes have found a leader capable of bringing many of them together. Vercingetorix of the Arverni. A young Gallic commander with a dangerous idea. If the tribes of Gaul stop fighting one another, they might be strong enough to defeat Rome. At Alesia, that idea will face its final test. And if you enjoy forgotten moments of history told like this, follow and subscribe to History in the Shadow. Because sometimes the most important battles in history are the ones fought far from the capitals. Now, let's go back to 52 BC. Caesar has forced Vercingetorix toward Alesia. The Gallic army occupies the high ground. The settlement is naturally protected by steep slopes and difficult terrain. From the summit, Vercingetorix he knows Caesar's reputation. He knows what Roman legions can do in open battle, so he refuses to give Caesar. Caesar studies the hill. Then he gives the order.
Build!
Roman soldiers begin digging. Not a simple ditch, not a temporary camp, an enormous siege system.
The legionaries cut timber, they dig trenches, they raise embankments, they construct towers and defensive positions. The Roman army begins creating a fortified ring around Alesia. Its purpose is simple: nothing gets out. But Vercingetorix understands the danger. If Caesar completes the entire line, the Gallic army will be imprisoned. So before the Roman works are finished, Gallic cavalry bursts from Alesia. Hooves thunder across the plain. Roman engineers abandon their tools. Legionaries grab shields and weapons. The Gallic horsemen charge. For a moment, the unfinished Roman line seems vulnerable. But Caesar has anticipated the attack. Roman formations close. Germanic cavalry supporting Caesar counterattacks. The Gallic horsemen are driven back toward Alesia. The opportunity is gone. The trap is closing. Vercingetorix now understands something. He cannot defeat Caesar simply by waiting, so he sends his cavalry away through the unfinished. Their mission is desperate. Ride across Gaul, tell every tribe what has happened, raise another army, bring everyone who can fight. Because inside Alesia, the food will not last forever. Caesar's own account says the defenders had roughly 30 days of grain under strict rationing. 30 days. That is all the time Vercingetorix believes he has. The Gallic cavalry disappears into the night. Now the waiting begins. Caesar has another problem. He knows that if a relief army comes, his own army could become trapped. So he makes one of the boldest decisions of the entire campaign. The Romans turn outward. They build another defensive line. Now there are 2 rings of Roman fortifications. The inner line faces Alesia. Its purpose is to stop Vercingetorix from breaking out. The outer line faces the country. Caesar is building a fortress around a fortress, and he is placing his army between them. Roman engineers create trenches, ramparts, towers, camps, and obstacles. The battlefield itself is being transformed into a weapon. The Romans are not simply waiting for the Gauls. They are preparing the ground to kill them. Inside Alesia, the situation becomes darker. The grain stores are disappearing. The warriors are hungry. The civilians are hungry. Then comes an impossible decision. What happens to people who cannot fight? According to Caesar's account, the Gallic leaders eventually decide that those unable to fight should leave the settlement. Women, children, the elderly, they are sent toward the Roman lines. But Caesar does not simply open the gates. The people become trapped between the Roman fortifications and Alesia. They have nowhere to go. Behind them is starvation. In front of them is a Roman army. The scene becomes one of the darkest episodes recorded during the siege. And still, Vercingetorix waits. Every day he looks toward the horizon. Nothing. Another day. Nothing. Then, one morning, the horizon changes. A Roman scout races toward Caesar. Dust is rising across the plains. There are horns, shouting, movement everywhere. The relief army has arrived. The numbers reported by Caesar are enormous. Around 250,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry. Whether that figure is exact is another question. Ancient writers frequently presented enormous enemy numbers, and modern historians have questioned the scale. But Caesar's army is unquestionably facing a massive Gallic force. For the first time, the Roman siege has become a siege of the Romans themselves. Vercingetorix has an army inside. The relief army is outside. Caesar is in the middle. And the Gallic plan is brutally simple. Attack from both sides at once. The first assault begins with cavalry. Gallic horsemen sweep across the plain. Roman cavalry moves to meet them. Thousands of footsteps, wooden ladders being carried forward, bundles of branches prepared to fill the Roman trenches. Gallic warriors move silently through the darkness. Then, the attack begins. Roman sentries raise the alarm. Trumpets sound. Legionaries rush to the ramparts. Shields lock together. Archers and slingers fire into the darkness. Roman artillery launches projectiles toward the sound of the attackers. The Gauls reach the trenches. They throw fascines into the ditches. Men climb. Ladders crash against the defenses. Some reach the top. Roman soldiers fight them at arm's length, sword against spear, shield against shield. The night is filled with screams. And then, another alarm. From inside Alesia, Vercingetorix has attacked too. Now Caesar's men are fighting on both sides of their fortifications. One army is attacking from outside, another is attacking from inside. Roman commanders must move reserves from one threatened sector to another. Every soldier matters. Every minute matters. If one section collapses, the entire Roman position could unravel. But the Gallic coordination begins to break down in the darkness. The two armies cannot easily communicate. Their signals are delayed. Their attacks lose synchronization. By dawn, the assault is failing. The Gauls withdraw. But they have learned something. The Roman line is not invincible. It has a weakness. The Gallic commanders search for it. They study the terrain. They examine the Roman camps. They look for ground where Caesar's fortifications are difficult to defend. And eventually they identify a dangerous position in the northern sector. A Roman camp sits near difficult, broken ground. Vercingetorix will attack from inside. The relief army will attack from outside, and a specially selected force will strike the vulnerable northern sector. The plan is simple. Break one point, then flood through. The final battle begins. Gallic warriors surge toward the Roman lines. From the opposite direction, men pour out of Alesia. The Roman defenders are stretched across miles of fortifications. Caesar rides from position to position. Messages fly between commanders. Reserves are thrown into the fighting.
The northern sector becomes the center of the battle. Roman soldiers are pushed back. The Gauls climb over the defenses.
The trenches fill with bodies. For the first time, the Roman line is genuinely close to collapse. A commander sends word to Caesar. The position cannot hold forever. Caesar understands what that means. If the northern camp falls, the entire siege may collapse, and with it, Caesar's army. There is no army behind him to rescue him. No safe retreat. No second line. This is it. So Caesar gathers his remaining cavalry. And instead of waiting for the battle to come to him,
he attacks.
Roman cavalry appears on the flank. The Gallic attackers are already committed against the defenses. Then they hear something behind them.
Horsemen! Roman cavalry! They turn! Too late!
Caesar has struck the Gallic force from the rear. Suddenly, the men attacking the fortifications are caught between the Roman defenders and Caesar's cavalry.
The formation breaks. Panic spreads. What began as a breakthrough becomes a rout. The Gallic relief army starts falling apart. Men abandon their weapons. Units lose cohesion. Warriors who had marched across Gaul to save Alesia now begin running for home. Inside the fortress, Vercingetorix watches. The army he had waited for is disappearing. The final chance is gone. That night, the Gallic camp becomes silent. There is no great rescue coming, no second army, and a fortress running out of food. The next day, the gates of Alesia open. Vercingetorix emerges. The commander who had tried to unite Gaul against Rome surrenders. The siege is over, and with it, the last great organized resistance to Caesar's conquest of Gaul. But Alesia did something more than win Caesar a war. It changed the balance of power in the Roman Republic. Caesar returned from Gaul with enormous military prestige. His soldiers were loyal to him. His victories had made him rich. And now he possessed something even more dangerous: an army that had followed him for years and believed in him. The Roman Senate began to fear what Caesar had become. His old ally had become his rival, Pompey the Great. The political conflict intensified. Caesar was ordered to surrender his command. He refused.
And in 49 BC, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his army, a decision that would ignite a Roman civil war.
The man who had conquered Gaul was now marching against Rome itself. Years later, Pompey would face Caesar at Pharsalus, and once again, Caesar would enter a battle against a larger force. But that is another story. At Alesia, the numbers are still debated. Was it truly 50,000 Romans against 250,000 Gauls? Probably not in the simple way the famous headline suggests. The ancient sources give enormous figures. Modern historians generally treat those numbers with caution. But the central fact remains extraordinary. Caesar surrounded a heavily defended Gallic army, then built another line facing outward when a massive relief force appeared. He turned the battlefield into a fortress. He made his army fight in two directions.
And when the Roman defenses finally came close to breaking, Caesar personally committed his reserves and struck the Gallic attackers at the decisive moment.
That is why Alesia remains one of antiquity's most remarkable examples of siege warfare. Not because Caesar had the largest army, but because he understood something more important than numbers. Where an army stands can matter as much as how many men it has. At Alesia, Caesar made the earth itself fight for Rome. And when the battle ended, Gaul had lost its last great chance to throw Rome back. The road to Roman Gaul was open, and the road from Caesar's military glory to the destruction of the Roman Republic had just begun. This is History in the Shadow. Follow and subscribe, because history does not always hide its greatest stories in the shadows. Sometimes, they are buried beneath the battlefield.